Hi, welcome to this video. My name is Taylor Bentute and we're going to go over how to price your services in your agency. Now, the person who asked this video was Brandon Andrews, so shout out to him for this video. And stage one of pricing is really simple. Stage two of pricing is a little bit more complex, and I know this whiteboard looks really simple, but I'm going to explain it. So when you're starting out in your agency and you don't really have much experience with the service that you're offering, maybe you've got a few clients but you don't have a lot of experience delivering that service, typically your pricing is based around two things. And both of these things really suck, but you have to start here because you don't have to, but almost 90% of the time you do because you don't really know how to get to stage two. So you're pricing based on competition, number one. So you're looking at some of your competitors and you're saying, oh yeah, okay, well they're charging around $1,000, $2,000 for this type of job, for this type of project, for this type of service. And you've done a little bit of research and you realize that the average price point is around this amount, but you're still not 100% sure. Regardless, your benchmark is around competition when you're starting out in your agency. And the second thing is time. And this one really sucks because it's like, you should definitely not be charging based on the amount of time that it takes you to deliver a service ever. That should never be how you're pricing. But when you're starting out, it's like, it's in your brain that, oh yeah, okay, well it's gonna take me 10 hours, I'll charge $1,000, it's $100 an hour. And some people rationalize their pricing based on time, okay? Again, shouldn't even be, really, it shouldn't be factored or considered once you get to stage two, but when you're starting out, you have to factor it in because you don't really know how to get to stage two. So this is where you start. And again, the reason why is because you don't have a lot of experience delivering the service that you're offering. And so you're not 100% sure on the results that you can deliver, on how valuable the service is that you're providing. And you just don't fully understand what it is that the client wants and how much value they see in the service that you're delivering. So that's stage one, and that's how I started out when I was pricing my services. I was thinking about competition, I was thinking about time, and those were the two things that I was primarily thinking about. Okay, of course results is in there, but everybody's always thinking about results. Those were the other two things. Now stage two, I'll stand over here. Stage two is where you want to be, and it's where you want to be pretty much forever after you've got a lot of data. Once you got about 5-10 clients in the agency, even 3 or 4 clients, you can start to move towards stage two, where you're pricing based around value. And this is something in Lead Gen Enlightened that I call audit-based selling. And this is where, instead of thinking, oh, okay, well, yeah, I could manage the advertising for this company, and I think it would only take me about 10 hours a month to manage the advertising. We could increase the sales a little bit. I'm going to charge about $2,000 a month. That's $200 an hour. If I outsource it, I can still make a good profit. Okay, that's stage one thinking. When you move to stage two, you're thinking to yourself, I don't care how much time it takes me to manage this account. It's probably going to be somewhere between 10 to 20 hours, but that's irrelevant. What I want to know is, how much value can I bring to this client? And what do they really perceive as value? Do they perceive value as the time that I'm saving them? Do they perceive value as their reputation and the confidence that I'm giving them in the reputation because I'm building them a beautiful website that's going to look phenomenal and way better than their competitors? Do they most define value as increase in profit? Do they most define value as increase in sales, and they don't really care about profit so much? So you got to get clear on the client that you're speaking to, and you got to be on the sales call with this prospect, and you got to really say, hey, what's the primary reason why you came on the call with me today? Okay, he's going to tell you, well, I'm running out of time. I don't really have a lot of time to manage my advertising, or I know my website just isn't as good as some of the other competitors out there, or I see that my competitors are outranking me on Google or whatever, and they're going to start to give you clues as to what they define as value, okay? Now, typically for whatever service you're providing, if our agency provides advertising services, and usually it's a matter of profit or sales or time. It's one of these three things, so I can kind of feel it out and understand what it is. And then what you want to do is you want to basically be able to understand, okay, if it's profit that they care about, well, how much can we increase their profit? And this is only possible if you do something, if you build what I call just like an audit forecasting machine, where you have this mini software / machine that allows you to look at an account or a prospect's particular project that they're wanting you to do, and you can look at it and forecast the amount of value that you'd be able to provide and give you a ratio on basically, hey, if you're going to provide $100,000 worth of value for this type of project, you should charge at least 1/10 of that bare minimum, so $10,000. Okay. Now for us, we have a process where we run an audit with a machine that we've built, a software. It takes in the data from the account and it spits out a forecast on how much we're able to increase the sales and exactly how many campaigns we would need to launch in order to do that and get that result. So we know two things: how much time it's going to take us to get the result and how much we can approximately increase the client's sales and how big of a result we can get them. So if we can increase their sales by $500,000 a month, we're not going to charge $2,000 a month. It doesn't matter if it takes us 10 hours to increase their sales by $500,000 per month. I'm not going to be thinking about time. I'm not going to be thinking about competition. I'm purely going to be thinking about this client cares about increasing their sales, their revenue, not even their profit. Okay, we can increase their revenue by at least $500,000 per month within the benchmark of profitability that they are caring about, which is probably break even. They don't want to lose money. They don't care about making money. So Gary, we know we can increase their sales by about $500,000 a month. We're going to charge them at least $8,000 to $10,000 per month, bare minimum starting out, to see how things go. And if we really get up to that $500,000 a month range, we might push for anywhere between $15,000 plus. Typically, if it's that high of a retainer, it's not going to be a flat fee. It's going to be a percentage of ad rev or a percentage of profit or a percentage of ad spend, because we run an advertising agency. But regardless, you're doing an audit-based selling proposition where you're looking at the value that you can provide and you're charging usually around 1/10 to 1/8, whatever that amount of value is that you can provide. Now again, sometimes it's not as easy as looking at, oh, we can increase their sales by $100,000. Sometimes we've taken on accounts where we can't really increase their sales much at all, but the owner is in a position where he doesn't have the time, and so for him, value is actually time, right? And so he's looking at this and he's saying, okay, I really want a good agency that can manage my advertising. I don't really care much about increasing the sales a ridiculous amount. What I just want is to know that I have a good agency that's managing it and doing it properly, and I can be free and have more time to invest on this or on that. Now, if it's that type of scenario, we'll usually charge anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000. Sometimes the lowest will be around $1,500 per month. And that's just because, hey, we can't really increase their sales that much. But again, we're happy to come in here and just maintain what is going on for $2,000 a month, 2 to 3. Now, if it's a really big account and the account's making $500,000 to $1 million, again, that's going to be a higher retainer because it's going to take more time for us to maintain that performance, and therefore we'll charge a higher retainer amount because it's relative to the amount of money that the current thing that we're managing is making the company. Now, I've heard of cases where there's like web design companies who will pitch a service to basically build a website for $70,000 to a big company, 8-9-figure company, and the company actually turns them down. Now the company turns them down not because the price was too expensive, but because it was too cheap. They didn't think that it was possible to build a really nice website for just $70,000. They truly believed that it was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and therefore they turned that agency down. Now, the funny story between that agency that I heard this story about is that they actually, in the future, when they were speaking with 8 to 9-figure companies that were like the company that turned them down, they knew that it would only take them maybe 50, 60 hours to build the website. But instead of charging $70,000, which is almost like $1,000 an hour, they were like, screw it, we're just going to charge $200,000, $300,000 for this thing, because if we don't, they may not take it. And so they'll pitch their pricing out to $200,000, $300,000, whatever it might be, and they will actually get the contract. So you've got to also consider that, if your pricing is too cheap, the prospect might look at you and be like, yeah, maybe this service actually isn't too good. It seems like it's a bit too cheap. Now that's usually only if you're working with a lot bigger companies, 8-9-figure company corporations, where they're used to paying a large amount for retainers, anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000 per month, okay? So you don't have to worry about that unless you're working with those types of companies. But the point is in this video is that when you're starting out, you don't really have enough data and enough understanding of the niche and the ideal client that you're going after to be able to move into this value/audit-based pricing, okay? And that's why you start out here in competition and time, because you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't really know how much this is worth, because again, you don't really know your ideal client that well, and you're kind of new in the niche. But once you got 5 clients, you can move to this thing no problem. And you can build systems around the data that you have and around the experiences that you've had with the previous clients. And you can talk to the previous clients that you serviced and say, hey, John, you know, just a quick question. I know we did that website development project for you, or that SEO project or whatever. And I know we charged about $2,000 or $2,000 a month or $3,000 for it. But, you know, I was just curious, based on what you've seen after the project and all that, what would you have been willing to pay for that? You can even go out and ask your clients, hey, you know, I'm just trying to figure out and understand my pricing better. And this is basically just getting feedback from your clients. Some of them will be really honest and they'll tell you, you know what, I actually thought you were going to charge me like $5,000 a month. You came at me and you said $2,500, and I was really excited about that, obviously, because I was expecting to pay a lot more, etc. So sometimes you'll hear that, and that's good to hear. You'll never really hear them say, oh yeah, it was too expensive, but I still did it anyways. If they did it anyways, if they worked with you, it wasn't because it was too expensive, it's because they really saw that you were going to provide value. So typically when you're getting that feedback, you're usually looking for the other side of things where they say, hey, yeah, like I think that you could actually charge more for this type of service, because you're wanting to get that feedback from ideal clients, not from people who you totally blew it and the project was a total complete disaster, because that wasn't an ideal client, you took on the wrong client, okay? The ideal client is somebody that you get great results for. They're extremely happy with the service, and they want to continue to work with you in the future, or they're never going to leave you. That's the ideal client. That's the person you want to get feedback from if you've got at least 5+ clients and you're trying to move into this model where you can do selling based on value and based on a very in-depth audit that you've done. So let me know if this makes sense. I feel like it's kind of surface level. It's not super in-depth in the weeds, but to say the least, this for me was like a huge transition when we moved to this, okay? And our retainers went up drastically, and yeah, I never look back over here, because this is terrible. You don't want to be doing this after you've got at least 5 clients. So thanks for checking out this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Brandon, I hope you enjoyed this. If you found value in it, let me know. And if you need help building a lead gen system, scaling the agency, automating the agency, hiring a team, removing yourself from the agency, all of these things is what I talk about in Lead Gen Enlightened. So if you want to check that out, there's a case study or training video in the description below. But regardless, feel free to subscribe. I post 1 video a week. Hit that button below, and I'll see you next week on Monday. Ciao.